John, thanks for coming over today to talk with me. Let's start with a wrist check. What are you wearing on your wrist?
Well, actually, I'm not wearing anything right now, Bruce.
Okay.
Yeah, I took my watch off. It's one of my own. It's a Markwell Date-Matic. It's the black and gold watch that we have.
Yeah, so I have started kind of a new segment where I talk with watch collectors that are various professionals. I know you were in the real estate business, but you've also started a watch brand, which, I don't talk to a lot of brand owners. So I'm excited to chat with you today.
Absolutely.
Tell me how watches play a role in your day-to-day interactions, either in the mortgage business or as a brand owner. Do you see nice watches around you, or are you wearing the nicest watches in the room? Tell me about your experience in that regard.
Well, sometimes you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, right? So that means change rooms, and it might be the same way if you've got the most expensive watch in the room. You want to leave the room as well.
Yeah.
Now, I've been in real estate mortgage financing for 30 years, and that being quite heavy, I can tell you there's quite a bit of Rolex. So back in the day, that was one of the things that I always wanted was a Rolex, and then I had a goal, and I met that goal. Time-wise, though, I'm a collector. So,
and you've been collecting watches for over 20 years, right? Or close to 20?
Over 25.
25, okay.
Yeah, I hate to admit how old I am, but yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so in that mortgage business that I was in, there was always like goals, and you were supposed to meet your numbers and do those things. So I had set a number way back in the day, long before the Olympics were here in Salt Lake, and I hit that number. And when I hit that number, that's when I marched down to the mall, when you could, and said, this is the watch that I wanted. And the watch that I wanted is what people like to colloquially call the root beer.
Let me see that,
So
John.
let me pass that along to you.
This is stunningly beautiful. That brown, that sun ray, and then you pair it with the aluminum bezel insert. I didn't know I'd like this as much. Until seeing it in person.
It's kind of, and they all come in different shades of brown, or like a chocolate, or even a salmon at some point, depending on the light. And I always wanted that
so
watch.
Pretty.
The reason I wanted that watch, Bruce, is I'll tell you a little story. The best part of this was when I was a kid, I was on the soccer team. And when I was on the soccer team, it's like a lot of places. The coach is a volunteer.
Yeah.
And it was a little friend of mine. It was his dad. And his dad was a successful contractor. And he had two things. And I remember riding in his dad's Porsche 928.
Sweet.
Now, we've already established I've been around a while. And it was brown, like metal flake with like brown leather interior, this Porsche 928. I remember riding in the back, and his dad was up there driving. And what did he have on his wrist? He had a root beer GMT.
Ooh.
I haven't gotten the Porsche yet, but I was able to purchase this. Yeah. And the funny thing is I've purchased this well over 20 years ago. And at the time, this is when you could walk in to the mall.
Just about everything.
Everything.
And get a small discount.
Now, ironically, this one was just about the time before the ceramic watches came out with Rolex.
Sure.
So this was kind of on the tail end. So I had to order it. So I walked in, said, could I get this? I put a small deposit. They called me 2 weeks later. I came into the mall, and there was
you got your
watch.
Celebratory gold watch, right?
I got my root beer Rolex
Like a
GMT.
lot of watch collectors, they buy Rolex on a big occasion in their life, whether they're getting married or having a baby or starting a business or whatever the case may be. That's really interesting. I know, John, just knowing you as long as I have, you also mod Rolexes. Yeah. Like some watch collectors mod a Seiko. You will change up an OEM Rolex with OEM parts.
Yeah.
And I don't know many people that do that. So,
well, you're kind of a catch and release kind of guy when it comes to watches.
Always, yes.
I'm not. So I buy and keep. Like we've just established, I think I bought this back in 06 or 07, right?
Right.
Well, when you buy a watch back then and you have it, you kind of get an itch sometimes, but maybe you're not in that financial condition to buy yourself something different. So a lot of people change a bracelet, they'll change a strap. You'll see people with modding Seikos and changing hands and changing dials, and there used to be.
And you do that.
there was a group, or not a group, I don't want to call it, a website that I used to follow, and the guy used to change things out. So, for instance, I've got a Datejust, and what I didn't like on the Datejust, the hands were hard to read. Again, we established my age. These are bifocals. What did I do? I put Submariner hands on my Datejust.
Yeah.
Now you can see that on an Explorer, but you don't see it on a Datejust.
No, I mean, it's sacrilegious to do it to many people, but it enhances the legibility for you.
Well, yeah.
So why not, right?
And if you can find parts on collector forums and on eBay that are OEM, so you know they're not going to mess up your watch, not going to mess with the value. People don't like that.
Yeah.
And even if I did sell it on, I'd change it back to the way it was. I still have all my parts. The nice thing is I made it mine. So if I didn't like that silver dial, now I've got a blue dial.
Yeah.
I didn't like the date wheel in black, now you got it in red.
Right.
And it's a part. So the funny part is when you're taking Yachtmaster parts and putting them on Datejust. And I just love all the hate that I get on Instagram and Facebook and everything else.
You ruined that Rolex, John.
Oh, what, don't you understand what you've done to the value of your watch? And I'm like, yeah, I do. It's mine, and I've had it longer than you've been alive, so it's okay for me to do that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
There is one in there that is a more recent model,
Yeah.
a Milgauss.
Yep.
With the green crystal.
Yeah,
right?
it's something I always wanted. It was also on that list, and this was something that I was able to achieve a couple of years ago. Again, this Milgauss is the green crystal with the black dial that everybody likes. The one thing,
but you've brushed this.
Yeah, I'm not a I'm not a blingy guy.
I like it.
Yeah,
you know that this with the PCLs, it was pretty.
Yeah,
but it was almost too blingy, right? You know.
Yeah, I mean okay, this is supposed to be like the scientist's watch that, magnetism and aliens and the whole thing, but then it's all like blingy and it's polished out and catching the light. So what
you brushed the lugs and the bracelet.
Yeah, so what we did there, I found, if you go back to the 60s to the 1019, which was like the second model of the Milgauss, it has the same brushing pattern. Similar to the Air King that used to have.
I was going to say, I actually think this is an improvement to the look of the OEM, right?
Yeah, I get more grief about this because they're like, oh, you've ruined your watch now. Well, if you can brush out a bracelet, you can also polish it. And then they're like, well, if you polish your watch, it's less money in your pocket.
Well, most used Rolexes have been polished. You go to any known dealer, they kind of touch them up a bit.
90% of the time. Yeah. It just depends on how good their polisher is.
That's true.
Yeah.
So you also brought a bunch of watches in there from your own brand, Markwell.
Absolutely.
That you started, I believe, last year, correct?
Yeah, it was about a year ago.
And I'd like to talk to you about that. What's it been like as a watch enthusiast for 25 years?
Yeah.
And now you've started your own watch company. Tell me why. Why'd you do that? What's the motivation here? Because technically we've been in a kind of a rough period for the watch market.
Yeah.
And you've come out with a microbrand kind of in this period. What's the driving factor for you?
Well, Bruce, it's kind of like you see a mountain, you want to climb it, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to collect a watch and you've kind of got an eye for things that you like, and some people, even my mods, they like those, I decided I want to start a microbrand. I wanted to have a watch, call it a pet project, and it could have been. I mean, you've reviewed it, the original one that came out a year ago. I wanted to make a watch that felt good on my wrist, that I liked the dial, that I liked the case, that had elements that were different. I didn't want the everyday microbrand. Of course, people buy those.
You didn't start with a diver. Most people do, or most brands do, I guess.
Well, you can go to a manufacturer in the Far East and you can say, I want this case, I want this dial, I want this bracelet, and put it together and maybe put a fancy dial. And maybe if your whole goal is to be a zillionaire, and I'm good with being a zillionaire, okay? Let's put that out there. But I didn't start with a diver because everybody starts with a diver. Am I going to make one? Yeah, I've already got technical drawings for one that hopefully I can launch sometime next year. And probably the end of this year, into 2026.
Okay.
But we started with an everyday watch. What's that one phrase? Gotta go anywhere, do anything?
Yeah.
We kind of changed it up a little bit and we call it a go anywhere dad accessory. Because it was that one watch like your dad wore all the time, right?
Yeah, I look at this and I see timeless vintage elements of the case, Art Deco elements on the dial. This is not like an everyday sports piece that you would see from, say, Zelos or Ming or whatever. Yeah. This has a distinct identity to it, and I think it's nice because there wasn't a brand on the market doing things like you're doing right now.
It was important that we had the quality that was there in the product. The one thing I learned. And trust me, there's a learning curve. And what do people say? If I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have started in the first place. Well, I will tell you that I didn't realize there's quality A, B, C. And then if you design your own thing, there's A, B, and C in your own thing. My case is not off the shelf.
Yeah.
So we have to have those cases made. There's challenges that are put in place.
Machined and then finished and
Oh yeah,
inspected and all that.
Yeah, you know what we were able to do with modern ideas and concepts? We were able to take a technical drawing and do 3D prints. So we were able to do a 3D print, and when you can wear your design on 2D paper,
Wear the form.
when you can wear the form on your wrist, it gives you an idea. And I'll be quite honest, we only had to print that thing once because we kind of had it dialed in.
I love it.
Yeah, but the elements of how we do it, we wanted modern manufacturing, okay? We wanted elements from the past, but we didn't want to make a vintage watch, but we kind of wanted to make it like a watch that, like a Datejust, is classic and been around forever. Yeah. Maybe this watch was the one that your granddad wore on the expandable bracelet, and this is what
And
it
you
looks
have
like.
some expandable bracelets.
Yeah,
on
we kind of do that here. We put them on our watches, and yeah, we use the old Spidels, and that's what we do just for fun. That being said, like I said, I wanted to make a watch that looks like it's been around for 50 years and it's evolved.
So tell me then, as you've been learning, going through this process, do you pay for that top A grade, or do you go kind of in the middle, or are you saving money with the C stuff?
Well, no, we don't have any C stuff. This is an A grade case, and it just became that way because of the elements that we did. There was it's kind of a strange, happy, expensive accident. It was just the way it was going to be.
Huh.
The nice thing is now that it's done and the molds are made and the dies are made, if I go and order 500 more cases, it's done.
Yeah.
So now, am I taking it off the shelf? I'm taking it off my own shelf to make more watches.
I like that. I like that.
And the nice thing also is that what you can do, you can change up dials, you can change up date wheels, you can change up hands, and you can have, basically,
Bezels.
well, that design iconography, that case, I can make that case with a date, without a date, glow in the dark, not glow in the dark. I can use a Miyota movement, I can use a Swiss movement, because we've designed that and made that. It's been 2 years if you think about it. We've been selling for a year, but a year before that just to get to that stage.
So you have your essence already laid in, and now it's just evolving your brand with different variations and stuff. Can you tell me what your next step is for Markwell? You've come out with 2 models. You came out with the Mason watch, and now you have the Datematic in several colors. What are you planning next?
Good question. Their theme, and I think it's maybe a trend right now, people are playing with different types of loom and different applications of loom. Loom blocks are pretty important for people now. The iconography that's on our Datematic, it's specific as far as the 3, 6, and 9. So we're looking at concepts where we can take a stainless steel or gold marker that resembles a 3, and maybe we can cut it out of loom and put it on the dial. Maybe we can, I think dials sell watches. I mean, you can have a great comfortable watch in a case, but the dial is
you got to connect with the face of the watch, right?
Yeah, you got to connect. And the one thing we learned with the Datematic is our previous watch, which you reviewed, basically had a brushed silver dial. So our new ones are like black, blue, green, and they have different textures and such. So on the next version of the Datematic, let's call it not the Datematic, but the Telford case, our next version, our 3rd version, probably looking at enamel dials.
Oh, that'd be pretty.
So enamel dials with applications of blocked loom. I'm really excited. I'm expecting my prototypes here in about the next month and a half. And we'll probably have watches that we can show for review and such probably about March.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's end with this, John. What has been the biggest thing you've learned as your experience in bringing to life a desire to have your own watch brand, right? What have you really learned and discovered in this process?
In my real estate type career, I work on short deadlines, and things happen within like compressed windows of say 30 days, or something has to be done in a week because it's got to be done the next week. What I've learned is supply chains, design, dealing with a manufacturer halfway across the world in Asia, dealing with the manufacturer over in Switzerland. So all those things, I think ironically the word is time, and we're all discussing watches in time now. There are things, there are seasons, there are way things are done, and I think the watch world is set up different than what I knew. So again, had I known, I probably still would have done it. The passion was always there.
Yeah.
Something that we want to do, when I say we, I mean my partner Alan and I, but when we put it together and this is what we wanted to do, we are learning every day. And sometimes it takes time. And sometimes it's not 24 hours, it's 24 days. And
Or
you know
longer,
what?
right?
Or longer, unfortunately. But I will tell you, the wait is worth it, and the quality of the product, and it's just something that I like, and hopefully I can share with other people.
Well, I love to see the success you've had, and I hope that continues.
Thank you.
I hope Mark Well is really embraced by the watch collector community. I'll put links to your website here
Appreciate that.
in this video. And if anyone watching here has a question for John, whether it's collecting for 25 years or modding Rolex or starting a brand, please place those questions in the comment section, and John, I'll ask you to go through and answer any that pop up. So.
Send me the hate. Tell me how I ruined my Milgauss. I'd appreciate it. And yeah, absolutely. I'll take care of it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you bet, John.